The text came through at 11:47 a.m. on December 18th while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my downtown office. My mother's message sat there on my phone screen, each word carefully chosen to inflict maximum damage while maintaining plausible deniability. Don't come to Christmas this year, Maya. I'm hosting my new business partners from the boutique, the Hendersons and the Whitfields. They're millionaires. Multiple properties. You just embarrass us. You understand, right? It's nothing personal. Just business. Below it, Dad's response appeared immediately. Your mother's right. This is important for her career. Maybe next year. I sat in my leather chair, looking out at the city skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows, and read the messages twice. Then I typed back a single word, understood. My assistant knocked on the door. Miss Chen, your 12:30 with the venture capital team is confirmed. Thank you, Rebecca. One moment. I picked up my phone and opened my secure messaging app. The one connected directly to my attorney, James Morrison, senior partner at Morrison & Associates. James, dissolve the silent partnership in Ellsworth Boutique immediately. I want every dollar of my $890,000 investment withdrawn by end of business today. Draft the paperwork. I'll sign within the hour. His response came in 30 seconds. Understood. Executing now. This will trigger the partnership dissolution clause. The business cannot operate without your capital backing. Are you certain? Completely certain. I set down my phone and returned to my reports. Somewhere across town in the boutique my mother had been running for 3 years, the one she thought she'd built herself, her phone was starting to ring. I'd been invisible to my parents for most of my adult life, which was exactly how I'd planned it. Growing up as the middle child in the Chen family meant existing in a permanent shadow. My older brother Marcus was the golden child, Stanford MBA, corporate law partner married to a surgeon. My younger sister Lauren was the creative darling, fashion designer, socialite, always photographed at the right parties. Then there was me, Maya, the boring one, the one who went to a state school, the one who worked in computers, doing something my parents never bothered to understand. The one who lived in a modest apartment and drove a 7-year-old Honda Civic. Maya works in IT, my mother would say at family gatherings, her tone suggesting I repaired printers for a living. In reality, I was a software engineer who'd gotten in early at a startup that developed AI-driven logistics software. When the company was acquired by a Fortune 500 corporation 6 years ago, my stock options had been worth $47 million. I was 28 years old and suddenly wealthier than everyone in my family combined. I told no one. Instead, I kept living in my modest apartment, kept driving my Honda, kept wearing clothes from Target. I watched as my family continued to dismiss me, to overlook me at every gathering, to forget to include me in family photos. And I took notes. Marcus would brag about his $380,000 salary while I sat quietly, knowing I'd made that in interest last quarter. Lauren would talk about her struggling design business while I mentally calculated how I could help her. If she ever once asked how I was doing. Mom would complain about money troubles with her boutique while sitting in my home, eating food I'd bought, never once wondering how I afforded anything. The dismissal wasn't cruel exactly. It was worse. It was indifference. Maya, honey, could you move? You're in the family photo, Mom had said at Thanksgiving 3 years ago. I'd been standing with everyone, but apparently I was blocking Marcus's wife. I'd stepped aside, smiled, said nothing. That was the night I'd decided to start investing in my mother's failing boutique. Anonymously, through a complex trust structure that even my attorney had called impressively untraceable. My mother's boutique, Ellsworth, was named after her maiden name. She'd opened it with $50,000 borrowed from my father and dreams of becoming a fashion influencer for mature, sophisticated women. The boutique lasted 6 months before it nearly collapsed. I watched the impending failure from a distance. Mom would complain at family dinners about suppliers demanding payment, about rent increases, about customers not appreciating quality. Dad would shake his head and mutter about throwing good money after bad. Maybe you should ask Maya for advice, Lauren had suggested once. She works with computers. Doesn't retail use computers? Mom had actually laughed. Maya? Sweetheart, she can barely afford her own rent. How would she help me? I'd been sitting right there. I'd smiled and sipped my water. 2 weeks later, I'd called James Morrison. I need to make an anonymous investment in a small retail business, I'd explained. The owner can never know the money came from me. Ever. James had structured it perfectly. A shell corporation 3 layers deep, invested $890,000 in Ellsworth Boutique as a silent partner. The terms were generous. My money provided operating capital, inventory purchasing power, and a financial cushion. In return, I received 40% ownership and quarterly financial reports. The contract included one critical clause. Either party could dissolve the partnership with 30 days' notice. Upon dissolution, all invested capital would be immediately returned. Mom thought she'd attracted a wealthy investor who believed in her vision. In reality, I'd just bought myself a front-row seat to watch her succeed, and to see if success would change how she treated me. It didn't. Over 3 years, Ellsworth thrived. My money allowed Mom to stock high-end inventory, hire competent staff, and weather slow seasons. The boutique became profitable. Mom became locally famous, featured in lifestyle magazines and fashion blogs. Her success made her worse. I built this from nothing, she'd announce at family gatherings. No handouts. No help. Just vision and hard work. I'd nod and smile. At my 30th birthday dinner, which I'd hosted and paid for, Mom had spent 45 minutes telling my friends about her boutique success. She never once asked about my work. When the check came, she'd looked at me with surprise. "You're paying? Can you afford this place, honey?" The dinner had cost $800. I'd made $15,000 in dividend payments that day. "I can manage," I'd said. The text message on December 18th shouldn't have surprised me, but somehow it still stung. My mother was hosting Christmas at her house this year. A lavish affair apparently, with catered food and a designer who'd been hired to decorate. She'd been planning it for months, posting about it constantly on social media. I'd assumed I was invited. After all, I was her daughter. But then the Hendersons and the Whitfields had entered the picture. Richard and Patricia Henderson owned a chain of luxury car dealerships. Thomas and Caroline Whitfield had made their fortune in real estate development. Both couples were in their 60s, wealthy, and recently obsessed with investing in local fashion. They'd approached my mother 6 weeks ago about becoming business partners, though from what I could gather from the quarterly reports my anonymous investment entity received, they hadn't actually invested anything yet. They'd simply attended some events, been photographed at the boutique, and promised future opportunities. Mom was starstruck. "They're introducing me to people I never could have met on my own," she'd gushed at Thanksgiving. "Real wealth, Maya. The kind that buys multiple properties. Not just getting by." She'd looked at me when she said that last part. Now 3 weeks before Christmas, I was being uninvited. "The Hendersons are bringing their son, who's a venture capitalist," Mom's follow-up text explained. "The Whitfields are bringing their daughter, who owns an art gallery. It's going to be very high-level conversation. Business strategy. Investment opportunities. You'd be bored anyway. Plus, Caroline specifically asked about the guest list. She wants to discuss a potential expansion partnership. I can't risk anything." Awkward. Translation: "You're too poor and unsuccessful to be seen by my new rich friends." My father's text came next. "Your sister's coming with her new boyfriend. He's a plastic surgeon. Marcus is bringing Jennifer and the kids. Everyone there will be established. You understand? We'll do something with you in January." I stared at my phone for a long moment. Then I texted back to both of them, "Understood." But I didn't feel understanding. I felt clarity. For 3 years I'd quietly funded my mother's dream. I'd made her success possible. I'd never asked for credit or recognition. I'd simply wanted to help, and perhaps secretly I'd hoped that her success might make her kinder more appreciative, more likely to see me. Instead, she was now using that success as a reason to exclude me from Christmas. I opened my secure app and messaged James. James called me at 12:15 p.m. "Maya, I've reviewed the partnership agreement. If you trigger the dissolution clause, Ellsworth Boutique will face immediate financial crisis. Your $890,000 represents approximately 70% of their operating capital. Without it, they won't be able to pay suppliers, make rent, or cover payroll. The business will likely fold within 60 days. I understand. Your mother will lose everything. Her reputation. The partnerships she's building. I understand that too. There was a pause. James had been my attorney for 6 years. He knew the whole story. The anonymity, the family dynamics, the reason I'd structured the investment the way I had. What happened? He asked quietly. I've been uninvited from Christmas. I'm too poor to be seen by her new millionaire friends. Another pause. Then, I'll have the paperwork ready in 30 minutes. This will hurt her, Maya. Good. I signed the dissolution documents at 1 p.m. in James's office. The paperwork was delivered to Ellsworth Boutique by courier at 2:30 p.m., along with formal notification that the silent partner was withdrawing all invested capital, effective immediately, per the 30-day dissolution clause. But I'd added one modification. James, the original contract allows for 30 days notice. I want to accelerate the timeline. How quickly can we execute the withdrawal? If you're willing to pay the early dissolution penalty, which would be about $90,000 based on the contract terms, we could execute immediately. Full capital withdrawal by end of business today. Do it. That gives her no time to secure alternative funding. Maya, this will destroy the business. That's not my problem anymore. At 3 p.m. the paperwork was amended. At 3:45 p.m., $890,000 was wire transferred from Ellsworth Boutique's operating account back to my trust. At 3:47 p.m., my mother's phone started ringing. I was in a meeting with my venture capital team when my phone started buzzing. Mom again. Marcus. Lauren. I silenced it and continued my meeting. By 6 p.m., I had 43 missed calls and 72 text messages. I read them in my office after everyone had left. Mom, 3:51 p.m. Maya, call me immediately. Emergency. Mom, 4:02 p.m. I don't understand what's happening. My investor just withdrew everything. Everything. Please call me. Mom, 4:15 p.m. The bank is saying I don't have enough to cover payroll. Maya, I need to borrow money. Can you ask your work for an advance? This is serious. Dad, 4:23 p.m. Your mother is hysterical. She says someone pulled out of her business. Do you know anything about this? Marcus, 4:35 p.m. Mom's having a crisis. Family emergency. Can you send whatever you can spare? Even $1,000 would help. Mom, 4:47 p.m. I'm going to lose everything. 10 years of work. Please, Maya. I need help. Can you borrow from someone? Lauren, 5:12 p.m. Mom is crying. She says the boutique is closing. Do you have any savings? Anything. Mom, 5:34 p.m. I called the Hendersons. They can't help. The Whitfields aren't answering. Maya, please. You're my daughter. There must be something you can do. Mom, 6:01 p.m. I'm sorry about Christmas. You can come. Please just help me. I'm begging you. I set down my phone and stared out at the city lights. I could fix this with a single phone call. I could wire her $1 million before morning. I could save the boutique, save her reputation, save her relationships with her new millionaire friends. But I didn't want to. For the first time in years, I wanted my mother to feel exactly what she'd made me feel every time she dismissed me, overlooked me, forgot about me. Invisible. Helpless. Worthless. I picked up my phone and typed one message to the family group chat. I'm sorry Mom is going through this. Unfortunately, I don't have any money to spare. I'm just a low-level IT worker, remember? Barely making rent. You all made that very clear. I hope the Hendersons or Whitfields can help. They're millionaires after all. Much better positioned to help than someone as poor as me. Good luck. I hit send and turned off my phone. I didn't turn my phone back on until December 23rd. By then the implosion was complete. Ellsworth Boutique had been forced to close its doors. Without operating capital, Mom couldn't pay suppliers, who immediately demanded payment for goods already delivered. She couldn't make payroll and her staff quit. She couldn't pay December rent and the landlord began eviction proceedings. The Hendersons and Whitfields, sensing disaster, had quietly distanced themselves. No returned calls. No future opportunities. Caroline Whitfield had actually posted on social media about supporting sustainable, well-managed businesses. A clear shot at my mother. The boutique's closure was covered in the local fashion blogs. Local success story: Ellsworth Boutique closes suddenly after investor withdrawal. The comments were brutal. My phone had 247 messages. Most were from my mother, increasingly desperate. Mom, December 19th. How could they do this to me? I built this business. Mom, December 20th. I'm ruined. Everything I worked for. Gone. Mom, December 21st. The Hendersons won't return my calls. Some partners. Mom, December 22nd. Christmas is cancelled. I can't do this. But then there was one message sent at 11:43 p.m. on December 22nd that caught my attention. Dad, Paya, I found something strange. I was helping your mother go through the business paperwork. The investor who pulled out, it was a company called Meridian Holdings Trust. I looked it up. The address listed is the same building where you work. Do you know anything about this? I didn't respond. On Christmas Eve morning, I received a call from an unknown number. I answered. Miss Chen, this is Patricia Henderson. We met briefly at your mother's boutique last month. I remember. I wanted to reach out to you personally. Your mother mentioned you work in tech. My son's venture capital firm is actually looking for advisors with software engineering backgrounds. Would you be interested in? No. Oh. Well, I also wanted to say how sorry I am about your mother's situation. Such a shame. We really thought she had something special. Did you invest any money in the boutique, Mrs. Henderson? Oh, so. Not yet. We were in discussions. Then you didn't lose anything. My mother did. I hung up. At 2 p.m. on Christmas Eve, my mother appeared at my apartment. I opened the door to find her standing there, makeup smeared, hair unwashed, wearing sweatpants instead of her usual designer outfit. Waya, we need to talk. I stepped aside and let her in. She looked around my small apartment, the one she'd always wrinkled her nose at. The one she'd called adequate for your budget. I know, she said quietly. Know what? Meridian Holdings Trust. I called James Morrison's office. I told them I was your mother, that there was a family emergency. His assistant let it slip that you were his client. Maya, was it you? The investor. I said nothing. It was you. Her voice broke. For 3 years. You funded my entire business. You made everything possible. And I uninvited you from Christmas because I thought you were poor. She sank onto my second-hand couch and started crying. How? She whispered. How do you have that kind of money? You drive a Honda. You live here. You wear clothes from Target. I know, Mom. I chose all of that. On purpose. Why? Because I wanted to see if you'd love me without the money. If you'd respect me without the status. If you'd include me in the family just because I'm your daughter. I sat down across from her. I wanted to know if I mattered to you beyond what I could provide. Why? I made $47 million 6 years ago when my company was acquired. I've since grown that to about $89 million through investments. I have multiple properties. I drive the Honda because I like it. I live here because it's close to work. I wear Target clothes because they're comfortable. None of it has anything to do with what I can afford. She stared at me. I funded your boutique because I'm your daughter and I wanted you to succeed. I stayed anonymous because I wanted to see if success would make you kinder. It didn't. It made you worse. I leaned forward. You became so obsessed with impressing millionaires that you uninvited your own daughter from Christmas. Me. The person who made your success possible. I didn't know. You didn't care to know. In 3 years you never once asked about my work. My life. My finances. You just assumed I was struggling because I wasn't performing wealth the way you thought I should. Mom's face crumpled. I'm so sorry. Maya, I'm so sorry. Please. I'll fix this. I'll tell everyone the truth. The boutique is gone, Mom. The money is withdrawn. The partnership is dissolved. But you could fund it again. Please. I'll make you a full partner. Public. Everyone will know. The Hendersons, the Whitfields, everyone will see that you're successful. I don't want them to see that I'm successful. I wanted you to see that I'm your daughter. She broke down completely then, sobbing on my couch. I sat and watched her cry. Part of me wanted to comfort her. Part of me was still that little girl who'd been moved out of family photos. What do I do? She finally whispered. Paya, what do I do? You go home. You tell Dad the truth. You call Marcus and Lauren and tell them the truth. And then you figure out what kind of person you want to be. Will you come to Christmas? There's no Christmas, Mom. You canceled it, remember? We could still. No. You made your choice. I'm spending tomorrow with people who actually want me around. That was partially true. I'd been invited to Christmas dinner by Rebecca, my assistant, who'd noticed I had no plans. Her family had welcomed me warmly, never once asking what I did for a living or what I was worth. Mom stood up slowly. Can I fix this? Us. I don't know. Can you? She left without answering. The truth spread through my family within 48 hours. Marcus called on December 26th. Maya, I don't even know what to say. Dad told me everything. Your worth, and you funded Mom's, and we all just dismissed me, forgot about me, excluded me. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I've been so focused on my own career, my own success. I never bothered to ask about yours. No, you didn't. Can we talk? Really talk? Maybe. Eventually. But not yet. Lauren texted, Paya, I feel sick. I've been bragging about my struggling design business while you're worth millions. And I never once asked if you wanted to invest or partner with me because I just assumed you couldn't help. I'm the worst sister ever. I didn't respond to that one. Dad came by my apartment on December 28th. I raised you, he said quietly, standing in my doorway. I'm your father. And I didn't know my own daughter well enough to see that she was successful. I just assumed. You assumed I was a failure because I didn't perform success the way you expected. Yes, I did. And I'm ashamed. Good. He flinched. Maya, please. Tell me how to fix this. Start by asking yourself why you never asked about my life. Why you agreed when Mom said I'd be embarrassing. Why you thought Christmas with successful people was more important than Christmas with all your children. I was wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. Yes, you were. He left looking 10 years older. The Hendersons and Whitfields, meanwhile, had started calling me. Apparently word had spread through their social circles that the poor daughter was actually worth $89 million. I blocked their numbers. By New Year's Eve, Mom had sent me 147 messages. Most were apologies. Some were justifications. A few were desperate pleas to reconsider funding the boutique. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I spent New Year's Eve at Rebecca's house, playing board games with her family and eating homemade pozole. Nobody asked what I was worth. Nobody cared that I drove a Honda. Rebecca's mother hugged me when I left. You're welcome here anytime, Mija. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. I cried in my car for 20 minutes after that. It's been 6 months now. The boutique never reopened. Mom tried to secure funding from banks, from investors, even from Marcus and Dad, but nobody wanted to back a business that had already failed once. The mysterious investor withdrawal had spooked everyone. She got a job as a sales associate at Nordstrom. It's a good job, stable, but it's not the boutique. It's not being the boss. It's not being featured in magazines. She's had to learn humility the hard way. We talk now. Once a week, usually on Sunday evenings. The conversations are awkward, stilted. She asks about my work now. Really asks, listening to the answers. She's stopped performing her old life, stopped pretending everything is perfect. Last month she said something that surprised me. I've been in therapy, trying to understand why I did what I did. Why I needed to impress the Hendersons so badly that I hurt my own daughter. Have you figured it out? I think I was so desperate to be seen as successful that I couldn't see what actually mattered. I built my identity around wealth and status that wasn't even real. And I destroyed my relationship with you in the process. It wasn't enough. Not yet. But it was something. Marcus and I have had lunch twice. He's trying at least. He asked about my investment strategy, my portfolio, my plans. Real questions. Genuine interest. Wasted years competing with you, he admitted. Trying to be the most successful Chen kid. And you'd already won. You just never needed to tell anyone. Lauren and I are still distant. She's struggling with what she calls the humiliation of not knowing. I think she'll come around eventually. Dad sends me articles now. Things he thinks I'd find interesting. Tech news. Investment strategies. It's his way of saying he's trying to understand me. I haven't given any of them money. I won't. That's not what they need from me, and honestly, it's not what I want to give. What I want is what I've always wanted. To be seen. Not for my bank account. Not for my success. Just for being me. As for the $890,000, I donated it to a scholarship fund for first-generation college students studying computer science. Kids who, like me, might come from families that don't understand their path, who might need someone to believe in them. I named it the Invisible Scholars Fund, because I spent too many years being invisible to the people who should have seen me most clearly. Last week, Mom asked if I'd come to Thanksgiving this year. Just family, she said. No Hendersons. No Whitfields. No millionaire partners. Just us. And I promise, Maya, I promise, you'll be in every photo. Front and center. I told her I'd think about it. But honestly, I'm leaning toward yes. Not because I've forgiven everything. Not because the hurt has disappeared. But because she finally sees me. And sometimes that's enough to start rebuilding what was broken. Even if it takes years. Even if it's never the same. At least now I'm not invisible anymore.